Hi, I'm Daniel Fisher here at Sweetwater Sound, and today I'm showing you the Erebus V3 analog synthesizer. This is the special edition from Sweetwater with the very 80s graphics. And it's a tabletop analog synth with 3 oscillators. It can be duophonic, so you can play 2 notes at once if you want from a MIDI source. It has a filter that can be both low pass, band pass, and high pass. It's a 12 dB filter that goes into resonance. It has its own dedicated ADSR envelope with its own level. It can loop the envelope, so that can become an LFO. There's another LFO over here, and the clock itself can be used as an LFO. So you can have 3 LFOs if you want. It has a killer echo. It's a lo-fi echo with a mix, feed, and time. You can control the time via the control voltage input. In fact, there's lots of control voltage inputs for all of this. And there's also a sample and hold, which lets you put in, if you put noise in it and a clock, you can get random at whatever speed you want. Or if you put a triangle wave in it, you can get stair-stepping, things like that. Basically, it's just a lot of fun to experiment with modulating each of the oscillators against each other and then into the echo. On the back, you have the ability to choose MIDI channel, and you can determine whether you want the auto-tune on or not. Now, auto-tune is pretty clever on this in that when you stop playing, once the amplifier shuts down, it immediately starts calibrating again until the next time you need the note. So that puts the oscillators in very good scaling and range to work across the keyboard. Everything stays in tune. And then you just have lots of cool things over here. Everything in green over here are the outputs. You got pink inputs. You have a 3 jack mult. You have your own clock source with its rate and duty cycle. And then you have control voltage inputs to control the pitch parameters. You can control filter cutoff and resonance. You can even control the delay time, which is very cool. I'll show you that. So the first oscillator, like I said, can be sawtooth or square, and the square can be pulse. Here's sawtooth. But where the real magic is on this oscillator is when you kick it into square and pulse. Then I can push the mix slider all the way to the right and now only hear oscillator 2. And this is a choice between sawtooth and triangle. Here's saw and triangle. And both of those have 3 octaves. So you have a low octave, a mid octave, and a high octave. And each of those run independently. Both of those have the ability to do ring mod. So this is 1 against 2. And that can be really interesting when you use glide at different rates. So the ring modulation is gliding differently than the note. And if you have the dip switches set to their default and you put the mix back to the middle, you then can have duophony. And then you can throw oscillator 3 into the mix, and oscillator 3 can double as a regular audio oscillator or an LFO, and it has lots more shapes. So if I just bring that in, make it be a sawtooth. Have a nice fat synth. And again, you can do duophony and then still have that third oscillator, which can be set to not track keyboard. And then the oscillator 3 also has FM, frequency modulation, which lets you take everything into hyperdrive. And I was talking about the filter in that it is a low pass, a band pass, and a high pass, and it lets you sweep through them. So here it is as a low pass. I'll put a little envelope on it, a little snappy envelope. And now I will increase the resonance. And as you can hear, it'll go into its own screaming self-oscillation. Now I'm going to sweep between low pass, band pass, and high pass. And now I'm going to use the envelope in a looping mode. And so basically what it does is it goes through the ADSR and then repeats itself so that the times on the sliders actually determine the speed of the looping. And then your amplifier is a standard ADSR with its own level. That's basically the level for everything. That level is after the echo, so you can also fade out even if the echo is going long. And then the LFO, when it's not patched to anything, its default is to control all three oscillators equally, and you have a rate and a depth. And then I also have white noise, which I can patch in either before the filter or after the filter into the amp. I'll start with the filter. So I'm just going to take noise out. I have the other oscillators off, and now I can sweep white noise. If I turn up resonance, it gets windy. So another use for noise is using it as the input of a sample and hold circuit. And that way, as you're sampling noise, you're sampling random values, and that's kind of how you do all those computer random kind of sounds. So even though I already have noise coming out into the filter, I'm also going to take noise to the input of the sample and hold. Now that's already a default, so I don't have to use a mult or anything to do that. And then I have a clock, and that is already defaulted to this clock here. So the only thing I really have to do is take the output of that and send it to the filter cutoff, and now I should get randomized filter cutoffs of noise. And as I turn up the level of the sample and hold, that will push how far the filter goes, and I can also change the rate and the duty cycle, or how long the sample and hold lasts for each cycle. And so one of the primary ways that you choose notes and gates and all that is via MIDI. So it has the MIDI, and I'm coming out of the Arturia Mini Brute 2. None of the audio that you're hearing is coming from this. Today I'm only using this as a controller and as an arpeggiator source. And you can use it without MIDI at all because this has inputs for the gate and the filter and the notes of all three. You can run Duophony just with MIDI, but you can have separate individual control voltages of all three oscillators if you wanted. So now let's play it a little bit more of a standard lead line or a bass line. And so I have my MIDI still connected, and I'm going to pull this, and I'm just going to turn on oscillator 1 again. I'll throw the switch, I'll pick a pulse. And maybe the next oscillator I'll do up an octave. And now I'll bring in the third oscillator. And you don't have to tune them to unison or octaves. You could also make chords. Kick an arpeggiator. Wow, what a great analog sound. If you have any further questions about the Erebus V3 analog synthesizer, the special edition or the regular edition, or any of the other Dreadbox products, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.